Hey everybody, and today we are jumping into my March TBR. Now March is the month of Realmathon, which is a readathon that I typically take part in because it's just an easy one, you know. You have the possibility to count 5 prompts towards your book, and there's a list. It's not a huge list, but still in total I think you have like 20 prompts I think to choose from, and you can use them multiple times and stuff like that. So typically, because of the way that these prompts work, you can use whichever book that you decide to read, so you don't really have to like form a TBR specifically for this readathon. So this is why I really enjoy taking part in this one, and also just the aspect of, you know, like gaining points for your realm, but also like attacking other realms. That's just really fun way to go about things. I am going to be taking part in Realmathon this year. I am part of the Realm of Shadows. The reason why I chose this one is just the description of people in this realm just perfectly suited my personality. And so now I'm a little bit like annoyed that it's like the biggest group, because I was like, yeah, I don't necessarily want to be part of the biggest realm, but yeah, it just worked out that like that description just fit me like to a T, so I just decided to go for it. But let's go through my TBR for March. Now what I'm going to be trying to do for the next few months is I'm gonna try and get through like my fixed TBR as soon as possible. So I'm gonna talk about the books that I absolutely have to read within the month of March first, and then I'll go into a few that, like, if I have time for them, I will fit them in those first 3 weeks. And then for the 4th week, like everything, all bets are off. I'm just going to be picking up something. Most likely, this is going to be the oldest book on my TBR that I will be tackling in that week, but who knows? All's fair in that regards. So I'm just going to go over the ones that I have to get through. So that means this TBR is hopefully going to be somewhat short. So first off, let me mention a few books that I'm carrying over from the month of February. First of all, I have A Third to Go in An Echo of Things to Come by Jace Arlington. This is the second book in the Licanius trilogy. In the Licanius trilogy, we are following 3 friends at the onset who are basically this sort of like magical academy. They are there to control their magical powers, and if they aren't able to control their magical powers, then they will lose their powers. One of these friends has been struggling with his power. The only time he's been able to use it is 3 years ago when he was first branded with the magician's mark, and so he's fearing that his fate will kind of steer him in the wrong direction. However, the evening before his examination, he is visited by one of the elders and he steers him on a different path. A very fun, complex series that you're supposed to read close together. I would say, I'm not entirely sure that you really need to, but in order for you to feel okay with the level of uncertainty within this series, read them close together, because otherwise you'll be like, am I supposed to be uncertain about this, or is this what the book is trying to do? And yes, it is what the book is trying to do. I can tell you that upon reread of this one. But yeah, I am going to be continuing this one, and then spoiler alert for later this video, the 3rd book is on my March TBR. So yeah, a third of this one to go, which means about 200 pages still to go in this one, so still a decent chunk. I was hoping to fit it into February, of course, but I was just not able to do it anymore because I apparently was going through it a little bit slower than I had anticipated. Another one that I'm carrying over from February is the 5th book in the Murderbot Diaries, which is... good question. I will have it on the screen. Rogue Protocol, potentially, or System Collapse? I don't know. I'm not really gonna tell you much about this specific one, but so Murderbot Diaries is a series of mainly novellas. I think this one is the longest one in the series, in which you're following a robot who has basically hacked his control module, and so now has his own sort of like agency, and then we kind of see what he gets up to. I am feeling like I have to start this series all over again, because there's too many things from the previous books that I haven't really given much attention to that are starting to interfere with my appreciation of the current book. So I'm still enjoying all of the interactions between characters and stuff like that, but when it comes to the overarching plot, which we've been slowly building over these past few novellas, I feel like there I'm starting to lose out a little bit. So I do think that I want to reread this series at some point, and then, you know, potentially do it more like physically to have more of my attention span on it than typically happens with audiobook. And then I've also already started the first book for my March TBR, and that is The Truth of the Eleke by Moses Oze Utomi. So this is the sequel to The Lies of the Ajungo, which is a novella that I read last year and really enjoyed. This one was one that kind of took me by surprise because I hadn't really anticipated. Like, I didn't know. I hadn't been hearing many people talk about this. The only person that I saw talk about this was Sada from Voice True Words, and she did give it 5 stars. And I think I also ended up giving it 5 stars. This is a novella, so it's pretty damn short, but it also has quite an impact. It's pretty important, it's pretty impactful. It has a big twist as well in the story. And so in that one we are following a young boy called Tutu who basically is living in the city of lies, and basically they're told like you cannot step outside of the city of lies because there's nothing out there, there are only enemies out there. And basically at the age of 13 all of the kids get their tongues cut out in exchange for water from this more overpowering kingdom. And so our boy is going on a quest to find water out there before we get to his 13th birthday. The sequel takes place much later, I feel like. We're following a different character and we are also in a different city, I believe, at this point in time. And there is actually a reference to a character called Tutu in the sort of like legends of this world, and so I'm kind of wondering whether this is the same Tutu, whether like the events from the first book have kind of passed down into legends at this point in time, or whether I'm just reading too much into that. But so that's a short novella that I'm currently reading. I haven't really calculated potential points for Realmathon for that one, but at the very least I should be able to get 14 for it. Then, moving into the other potentials for this month, let's go through the obligations and let's potentially go through them in order of importance. Most important for this month is The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. This is the first book in the Winnowing Flame trilogy. This is the book club book for my read-along, which is the Derby Dragons read-along. I will link the announcement video in the description for this one. And so in the months of March, May, July, we will be reading this trilogy, so feel free to hop on. You can of course skip the first month if you've already read the first one, which will be the case for quite a few, I think, within the book club. So I keep on forgetting what this one is about, so let's check it out. So, the great city of Ebora once glittered with gold. Now its streets are stalked by wolves. Tormal the Oatless has no taste for sitting around waiting to die while the realm of his storied ancestors falls to pieces. Talk about a guilt trip. Better to be amongst the living, where there are taverns full of women and wine. When eccentric explorer Lady Vicenza Vintage de Grasson offers him employment, he seeks an easy way out. Even when they are joined by a fugitive witch with a tendency to set things on fire, the prospect of facing down monsters and retrieving ancient artifacts is preferable to the abomination he left behind. But not everyone is willing to let the Eboran Empire collapse, and the adventurers are quickly drawn into a tangled conspiracy of magic and war. For the Juralai are coming, and the Ninth Reign must fall. So it doesn't say too much, except for, you know, you have a kingdom that has basically fallen into disrepair. Some people want to see it reinstated in its full glory, and we have this one guy who basically just wants to escape the direness of the situation into a life of adventure. Seems to be a found family story, hopefully. I'm very much looking forward to that, and I'm very curious how dragons fit into this one. But this one was nominated by, as I said, a lot of people who have already read the first one, so I'm assuming there will be dragons in here. I'm just very curious to see how that fits into the overarching plot of this series. But so, that one is going to be my main priority for this month, the most important book for me to finish within this month. And so for that one, at the very least, I've calculated I can get 34 points. Why do I say at the very least? Why don't I have a full tally for it yet ready? That's because one of the potential prompts that I can count this book for is 5-star read, but I won't know until I've actually read it. So that's just kind of based off of my first impression, seeing okay, for which prompts could I potentially count this one? And how much would that then earn me? Next up, the second sort of most important one then will be The Light of All That Falls by James Islington. This is a humongous book, 830 pages, which will definitely give me a lot of points for Realmathon, but it's also very, very intimidating. I think I'm gonna start with this one from the beginning and just like tackle like a chapter or so of this in the beginning while I'm also still reading the 9 train, just to avoid what was happening last month where all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, I'm not getting there in time and I had anticipated. This one is humongous, so I need to like get a crack on it, especially if I want to read it within the first 3 weeks. And yeah, I've already given you the synopsis, so I don't need to repeat that, but yeah, this is definitely, I was hoping to read this entire trilogy in the first 3 months of the year, and so I'm definitely hoping that I'm able to fulfill that. And so this would earn me a potential of 62 points at the least, so let's go for that. And then next up in, I don't know the order of these two, I'll just go for this one next, which is the Jasad Air by Sarah Hashem. This is a book that was actually supposed to be, like, it was the lowest priority on my February TBR, let's say it like that, and so I didn't get to it. This is Enemies to Lover, Egyptian-inspired fantasy. That's all I really know about it. Let's see what's the sort of like big synopsis here, or the big like selling line here is. At 10 years old, the heir of Jasad fled a massacre that consumed her entire family. At 15, she buried her first body. At 20, her carefully crafted lies, thanks Buffy, her carefully crafted lies are starting to crumble. So that one will be the, it was a February book for Of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, which is a book club which I tried to take part in, but more months than not I'm actually not participating because it just doesn't fit into my reading life. But so, 1 month behind, but I am going to try to catch up because of course this is a book that I physically own, so it would definitely help my TBR project to get this one down. Next up is the TBR Spin pick for March. So for TBR Spin, the March prompt is to read a book that will heal you, which is very widely interpretable. Yeah, whatever. So for my sort of like stack of 12 to choose from, I chose all of my oldest books on my TBR, and I feel like because of that I can choose whichever one. In the end I decided to go with the Memory Police. Why? Because I've been feeling very restless with my TBR lately. I've been feeling like once again, most of it has been on there for months and months and months, and most of it is books that I want to read, but I'm never finding the time for them. I'm never finding the time to prioritize what I want to be reading. Not that I don't want to be reading what I'm currently reading, you know, but there are definitely certain books that I've purchased that I was like, I want to dive into them straight away, and I feel like I'm never allowing myself that time. And The Memory Police is a book that has been like that for years. For years I've been wanting to read this book and I never prioritize it, and so for that reason I've decided that I'm going to put The Memory Police in as the book that will heal me, because that's the book that's going to satisfy some of those urges, some of that need to, you know, make some progress in stuff that I really, really want to be reading. Next, in terms of like, this is not, so now we've gone through everything, like the basically of what I want to be reading within the month of March. These are the sort of like priorities that I want to be getting done within those first 3 weeks of the month. What I'm gonna be talking about now are books that if I still have time in those 3 weeks, I will tackle. But we saw the length of these books. This is not going to happen. But so the March book for Queens, Witches and Valkyries is Womb City. I've forgotten the name of the author right now. I have access to the audiobook for this one on Storytel, so in principle it is one that I could potentially easily add, for example, on my commute to work. So there is potential for me to pick this one up in March, but I make no promises. And I've also forgotten what this one is about. Let's be a real booktuber here and then just look it up, of course, because otherwise this is just pointless for me to even mention it. Where is this on my Storytel? Womb City by Tlotlo Tsamase. So it says, this genre-bending African futurist horror novel blends The Handmaid's Tale with Get Out in an adrenaline-packed cyberpunk body-hopping ghost story, exploring motherhood, memory, and a woman's right to her own body. Nela seems to have it all: fame, wealth, and a long-awaited daughter growing in a government lab. But trapped in a loveless marriage to a policeman who uses a microchip to monitor every move, Nela's perfect life is precarious. After a drug-fueled evening culminates in an eerie car accident, Nela commits a desperate crime and buries the body, daring to hope that she can keep one last secret. It's a super long synopsis. I'm gonna leave it off at there because like it's still got like 3 more paragraphs and I feel like we've had enough of an introduction into this one. So I have been eager. This is definitely one on my anticipated release list, which I've never filmed, so you wouldn't know. But this is definitely one that I'm anticipating. I have seen one person at the very least who was disappointed by it, so I'm gonna lower my expectations and hope that that will mean a better result for me. But this is definitely still one that if I have the time for it, I want to fit it in. And then for Realmathon, there's also always a Peace Talks weekend in which you get 10 extra points per book that you read during those Peace Talks. And for that weekend, if I have time, so if all of those other ones are read, if those priorities are read, then I thought some good books for this weekend could be Palestine by Joe Sacco. So this is a graphic novel about the situation in Palestine. It is a book that was published much earlier than the current flare-up of attention being paid to this conflict. So comic books were released between 1993 and 1995. So it's definitely not going to go all the way to present day. It's definitely going to go over a much earlier period within this conflict, but I think it will be a very interesting read, a very hard read probably as well. I do tend to enjoy. I've read 2 other books that were graphic novels tackling a conflict. So I've read the one about World War I, or what was it, World War I? Was it World War II? Or maybe both even. What is it called? Why can I not come up with this title? The one that has the mice and the cats. And then I also read Persepolis. So I have read multiple like this and I do enjoy that way of tackling a conflict, so I'm eager to see what this one does. And then the second one that I have for that would be The Gigantic Beard That Was Evil by Stephen Collins, which all I know about is that apparently beards are considered evil on this island. Everybody has like a clean cut face, and so when one day a beard starts to appear on one person, apparently this creates some chaos or something like that. But so that is the first 3 weeks of March. Delusional. But yeah, as I indicated, if possible, I will try to get all of this in those 3 weeks, or at least the first 4, I think, that I highlighted in here. And then if that is not possible, then yeah, okay, so be it. And so that would then give me time to, in the final week of March, put something on there from my physical TBR. That was my March TBR. Let me know what you are reading in March. Are you participating in Realmathon? Let me know if there's anything on here that sounds really interesting to you or that you have read and want to share your thoughts on with me. And yeah, happy reading everybody. Enjoy the month of March, and yeah, see you guys for the next one. Bye!